It has been a while since I've made a video like this, guys, but I'm very curious to see how the meta actually evolved, because honestly, I haven't done a video like this in around 2 or 3 years. And in today's video, we're going to discuss about the best PVE nukers in Raid Shadow Legends, okay? Now, they've added so many champions. They literally flooded the gates of Teleria with champions. Like, they've just literally broke down something and the water is just pouring in. That's exactly how the champions are coming into Raid Shadow Legends. So we have a lot of new nukers. They tend to bring in a lot of nukers in general. We have a lot of mythical champions, but because most of them will be the top damage dealers, I am not going to include mythical champions in this list. We're going to talk only about legendary champions, okay? And what I'm gonna do, actually, I'm gonna go faction by faction. If we have one of them that is like a freaking goat, we're gonna talk about him. We're gonna talk where that champion is good, and of course, the most important thing, we're going to talk about the best builds for 2025 on these champions. Starting with the Silven Watchers. Let's actually start from here. We have a bunch of good champions in this faction, but you know what? The damage is really lacking in this faction, and I've noticed that very well when I was doing Faction Wars hard mode, because even though I have most of the champions available, it felt like, well, you know what, I just don't have enough damage. Yeah, Eilil is great, more for PvP. In PvE, he's definitely lacking a bit of damage, but I had to rely on Mistridder Deity to be like the GOAT in my team. But because we're only talking about legendary champions, I do have to give it to Grazor from the Silven Watcher faction. I feel like he is just such a freaking powerful champion. Unfortunately, I do not have him, but the damage this champion can bring, guys, if you watch the guide that I've done on him, like, it literally blew my mind while I was testing the champion, because he can actually do kind of like an enemy max HP with this skill, and he can actually attack all of the other targets and just do like stupid damage. Not only on waves, but if we're talking about bosses as well, he is actually really powerful. I have clanmates of mine that were running him in the Chimera, getting crazy scores, in the Hydra, getting crazy scores. Now, yeah, I'm not talking about the level of Tranda or anything like that, but still a very powerful champion. And I would absolutely love to get a freaking Grazor. I'm wondering, will Plarium ever bring in the faction unity champions in the regular summoning pool, or we're gonna have to wait for the events that are kind of like coming once or twice a year to summon this, to have a chance at summoning these champions, right? But Grazor is actually really good. You don't actually even have to go and build him with full crit rate, as long as you're setting up the team right and basically bringing in everything that he needs. Each continuous heal buff on the champion increases their crit rate by 20%. So if you can keep up a lot of continuous heal on the champion, he's always going to have full crit rate. And you can definitely do it for most of the content. The abilities to ignore defense. My opinion, best build for him is a Merciless set. You're gonna get tons and tons of value. You're gonna be able to actually do like big damage. Now, you can try and get a bit of accuracy on the champion too. Try and basically get everything sorted and put the debuffs. In some cases, if you go with a full team and stuff, like, you don't need a resistance. This skill doesn't need the accuracy, sorry. These debuffs cannot be resisted. Merciless set. You want to prioritize high attack and crit damage, because that's what will actually be really helpful. Now, he does ignore a lot of the target's resistance as well if he has continuous heals. If you're taking him in with a full team from the Silven Watchers, you can forget about accuracy and stuff like that for him, because he's going to absolutely demolish. And the ability to ignore a lot of defense too. Now, the thing is, you need to kind of like set him up to get to this point. We'll ignore 5% of the target's defense for each poison debuff on them. Versus some enemies, you can have poisons. Versus some, you cannot. That's why Merciless is still the better pick. Because you're guaranteed to have that up and running. But a very, very, very powerful nuker. Like this skill, even now, I remember being like, wow, you know, the damage that he actually dealt. Shadowkin faction, guys. So right here, we still have a lot of powerful champions. Even though I think that Ieyasu as a Void champion, he's great in the Hydra clan boss. I feel like comparing him with Ninja, he kind of like slacks in other PvE content. And we're not talking about PvP here. I want to talk about PvE, okay? So because of it, I think that Ninja will wear the crown in the Shadowkin faction. Just because he's so freaking good, man. Chimera, clan boss, Hydra, Cursiri, any freaking boss in the game. And he's absolutely demolishing him. Merciless, the best thing for him would be a 9-piece Merciless set, which is something that I cannot do on my account, unfortunately. That is a lot of fun. Now, of course, if you're trying to min-max all of your freaking damage on Ninja, getting a Zeal set, getting a Merciless can be even better, right? Because in some content, you don't necessarily want to get all of those extra turns from 9-piece Merciless. But this skill right here, the Hellburn, deals a lot of damage. This one hits really, really, really hard. And this one as well with the ability to land the defense down. All the magic happens with this passive. Now, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling like a lot of you guys missed out on Ninja. A lot of you guys started playing after they've made the second event for him, where they gave this champion for free to everybody, right? Maybe they're going to do it again in a couple of years. Who knows? Maybe they won't, but he is a limited champion, which kind of sucks. I know you guys hate me when I basically bring him up, especially if you don't have him, but he is definitely the best damage dealer from this faction, like an all-rounder, okay? And I'm talking about legendaries. I'm not including Toshiro on the list, okay? Because if I'm putting in mythicals, they will win in pretty much every faction, so I don't want to do that. Now, where a lot of you guys will be like, well, who's the best one in this faction? You know, because we do have Tranda, which is an absolute goat in the Hydra clan boss. We do have freaking Nut, which is huge everywhere. And a lot of you guys will be like, a bit like, well, Skratch, why not Tranda? She's just great in Hydra. A lot of you guys will be like, why not Nut? Because he's great everywhere, right? And I do think that the crown should go to Nut, because his versatility is unmatched in this game, okay? Like, no matter what freaking boss they're bringing in, he's gonna be amazing. Except the event dungeon boss that we just had, which they literally designed in such a way where Nut won't actually be able to destroy the boss. So, Nut, crazy good. Fire Knight, Dragon, Spider, not in the Ice Golem, but pretty much every other content. Hydra, Chimera, Clan Boss, you guys name it. Like, he's the PvE king, okay? Talking about builds for him, because he is an enemy max HP champion. You really don't have to go with Savage, Lethal, Merciless, or anything like that. In fact, Relentless could be one of the better options for him, depending on what content you're doing with him. So if he's your main Hydra damage dealer, yes, you can still go with Relentless. It doesn't matter that he takes extra turns. If you're running him in the clan boss in an unkillable team, maybe running Relentless on him won't be the best idea. Fire Knight, personally, for the Fire Knight, I prefer to have him on Savage, Lethal, or something like that, just because it kills the waves faster, okay? So we have the AoE attack, he deals more damage, the A1 will deal more damage, but this will still deal the same damage versus the boss. So Savage set won't really up his damage on the third skill, which is the creme de la creme when we're talking about Nut, right? But I still think that he deserves the crown in this faction with no questions asked. Like, forget about Tranda being busted in the Hydra. She's not busted anywhere else, right? While Nut, I wouldn't say busted, but he is the PvE king, hands down. And Akrisia is good too, right? Like, she's a very good AoE enemy max HP nuker. But I still think that Nut is better. Let me know in the comments down below, because I know this can be a bit more tricky. Knight Revenants. So right here we have a bunch of different champions too, but the thing is, it might sound weird to some of you guys, but I think the best nuker in this faction for PvE content is actually Georgie the Breaker. And it's all because of this skill right here. He has the ability to literally absolutely demolish some of the bosses in the game. You go in with the ally attack, and this skill, it is a lot of RNG. You do need a 6-star crushing run to make it work, but he can pull off crazy things that other champions cannot. And if we're talking about regular PvE content, waves, different enemies where we're not trying to do whale builds and stuff like that to one-shot bosses, I mean, both of these skills are insanely powerful. Curse, Faction Wars. I'm not really using him in a dungeon or anything like that, right? But this skill will one-shot somebody. This skill will absolutely demolish the entire freaking wave, no matter what wave that is, and will drop the Thermitter if by any chance we're not killing them, and he gets the unkillable. 6-piece Merciless, because we are talking about a PvE build. I'm not really using Georgie in PvP. In fact, probably I did not use Georgie in PvP in at least 6+ months. Probably more than that. But he is very powerful in PvE in the current meta. And that's the thing that I wanted to see, basically, like how many things actually evolved, because they flooded the game with new champions, okay? And a lot of them tend to be nukers, a lot of fusions, etc. So I was very kind of like curious to see how everything evolved. Now, when we are talking about the Dark Elves, right here, honestly, is still kind of like a bit of a odd type of thingy, because who is the best nuker in this faction? They have some nukers, but they don't really have that many, okay? And probably I will still have to go with Xayvia, because she is one of the best nukers in this faction. But the thing is, I don't have to pick one from every faction, okay? And looking at this faction, I just do not think that any of these champions, in terms of damage dealers, are goated in today's meta for any content whatsoever. Yes, they are niche for faction wars. Of course, you're gonna use them. Yes, you might end up in using 1, 2, 3 of them in the Curse series. Queen Eva is very powerful in PvP. She can be very good in PvE as well, but she's not kind of like a top damage dealer in PvE, right? So for the Dark Elves, we actually have nothing. And the fun thing is that Xayvia, once upon a time, used to be one of the GOAT damage dealers in the game, right? The Undead Horde. So in here, we actually have quite a few, I would say, strong damage dealers. But the best nuker in this faction is going to be Little Miss Annie. And that is for PvE, not PvP. So unlike Queen Eva that excels in PvP, Little Miss Annie excels in PvE more than in PvP. So she has the multi-hitters with defense down, the heal reduction, double hitter, self-buff. This skill deals crazy damage. So probably you've seen a lot of speedruns in the past with Little Miss Annie versus bosses like, what do we have? The Shogun, the Sand Devil's Necropolis, some of the event dungeons. So I do think that Little Miss Annie deserves the crown, at least for the Undead. And even though it's more niche, even though it's more like whale, krakenish type of stuff, she does deserve to be mentioned, because she does have the ability of hitting extremely, extremely hard with this skill. Merciless build is definitely something to keep in mind. Or you can always look at Zeal plus something else that will ignore defense. Merciless, Savage, Lethal, whatever allows you to get the best build on her. But having a 6-star crushing rand on her will be pretty important. One place where I haven't really tried her yet is the Hydra. Now, I know I had clanmates of mine using Little Miss Annie in the Chimera to get a lot of trials done, and she worked amazing. But I never really tried her in the Hydra clan boss, and I should do it one day just to see what type of numbers she can throw in there. Then, moving on to the Demonspawn faction. We do have a lot of good damage dealers, and I'm kind of like in between two of them. And I need your help for this one. And I'm talking about PvE. Forget about Vulcanos, right? I'm talking about either Chalco the Blind, which is crazy, crazy good, or the Cheshire Cat. So these are kind of like newish additions. And they are very, very strong across the entire board. If we're talking about dungeons as nukers, they're great. Curse City, Faction Wars. If we're talking about Hydra clan boss, they're really, really powerful. Heck, maybe even in the actual clan boss. But which one of them is the actual ultimate GOAT? Like the Cheshire Cat will self-buff. The Veil, crazy good in Hydra because he deals damage based on attack and speed. So he has 2 multipliers. He can push up the speed and the attack. You're gonna get good damage with the A1 as well, and the triple hitter on the A2. Plus a very, very good passive that helps to keep the champion alive, right? And then you have Chalco, which not only brings damage, but brings the utility too. It's a champion that I would love to get. The block, active, passive skill, sorry, and the debuff spread. Spreading all of the debuffs onto all enemies is huge, okay? Absolutely huge. If you kill somebody, you get an extra turn. Now, this is a champion that deals crazy damage in the Hydra. Very good in dungeons, in waves, even in PvP, but we're not talking about PvP. Overall, very powerful, but he is Void Affinity, which gives him a bit of a extra star, a plus, right? It's a pro for him. So, I personally would go with Chalco overall, but then the cat deals so much freaking damage too. Like, they're both absolutely amazing, you know? Kutraxa is great too as a damage dealer, but I'm really in between these two just because of the overall versatility and utility across multiple game modes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Then moving on to the Orc faction. Truth be told, we don't really have crazy damage dealers in here, but we just got a brand new one. And honestly, I do think that Crocad is probably the best pick for this faction, especially if you take into consideration the fact that together with Shayak, he's going to do crazy things across many different game modes. Now, he's not really a champion for the Chimera, but in the Hydra was absolutely amazing. If you're talking about waves, Doom Tower, Curse City, all of that content, he's going to be amazing. Now, him and Shayak, they definitely have the most powerful interaction in the entire game as a duo, okay? Crazy good damage, a lot of AoE attacks, and you can build this champion, if you want to, either on 9-piece Slayer, either you go with 6-piece Merciless, either 9-piece Merciless if you want to, but I think 6-piece will be a bit better. This skill is a single target. Now, if you go with Slayer, you're going to lose some of the damage from here, and he will do a lot of damage with this skill because he will repeat this attack every time Shayak is on the same team, which will bring in a lot of damage, especially in the Hydra clan boss. But I do think that him as a new addition is definitely something that this faction really needed. Once again, do let me know what you guys think about him. Val the Destroyer is another strong damage dealer for Hydra, Chimera. He definitely deserves a big shout out too. I used to run him in a lot of content. He was putting up very big numbers. But I think I still lean more towards Crocad, just because of that crazy interaction with Shayak. Moving on to the next faction, we have the Skinwalkers. Now, right here, to me, is a very simple pick. Marius is the ultimate freaking GOAT. PvP, PvE, absolutely mental, okay? As a champion, he is absolutely mental. Not just damage, but the buffs that he brings, the decreased duration of buffs on the enemies, triple hitter, the A1 with the enfeeble, huge carry across all of the content. Crazy damage in Chimera, crazy damage in Hydra, crazy damage in the clan boss, crazy damage in dungeons, crazy damage even in freaking PvP, all of the game modes. So there's literally no question whatsoever. PvE, 9-piece Slayer, he's going to be taking your account to the next level. It is quite a bit of a grind to get this champion. You will have to basically sweat your ass to get into completing all of the freaking missions for him. But is 1,000,000% worth it. I feel like out of all of the free champions that you're getting by completing content, so free, but you do need to work a lot for them, right? I feel like the only two champions that stayed relevant, is Lydia and Marius. They are the most freaking OP free characters that we've got as legendaries. Okay, yes, if we're talking about the other characters that we've got, they're still good. Like, let's put Ramantu, let's put Arbiter, and all the rest. They're very good champions. But none of them are more relevant in PvE content than Marius and Lydia. Let me know what you guys think about that as well. But moving on to the next faction, we have the Lizardmans. So right here, once again, very, very straightforward. Theox is in freaking insane. Hydra, PvE content, even PvP content. It's not just his ability of dealing damage, it's the ability of enhancing another damage dealer to deal crazier damage, okay? With this basic skill, which is just such a crazy powerful skill. He self-buffs, he blocks revives, he deals so much damage, extra turns, he stacks more increased attack. Yes, you do want to use him with as many lizards as possible. In the Hydra clan boss, for example, I use him with Krisk, and he is insane, okay? 6-piece Merciless on this champion. If you can go with Zeal as well, it's going to be very, very nice because that boosts the damage a lot. It really depends how is your Great Hall looking like. You maxed your Hydra on the ignore defense. You haven't yet, and all that stuff. But Legare Theox, even though he's kind of like a newish addition, let's just say the faction unity champions are more of a newish addition, he's very, very powerful. And once again, are they planning to bring them into the regular summoning pool like ever, or no? All green tribes. From here, the best PvE nuker is definitely going to be Grazor. But the fact that, I don't know, I don't feel like putting him in the top best ones. He does do some work in Faction Wars. He does do work in Curse, Hydra, some of the dungeons. I think he's more of a progression monster for most of the content. Now, I did use him in my Faction Wars hard mode team. And truth be told, I think it was going to be very challenging to do some of the content without him. I did use him on some stages in the Curse, but other than that, I don't think he's really bringing in that much to our accounts in today's meta. But progression-wise, I think he's an absolute monster. And yes, most likely you will use him in a lot of content as well, but I'm not going to put him on the list. Talking about the Barbarians. You know, this is going to be a bit of a trickier one because I think both of them are insanely, insanely powerful. And I am talking about Thorvald and I am talking about Thor, okay? It's kind of like, what in a pickle here? Who are we picking, guys, right? Thor is crazy, crazy good. He was a fusion. Crazy good damage in the Hydra. Crazy good damage on all of the waves, dungeons, Doom Towers, and all that content, right? But he excels mainly in the Hydra clan boss. Now, Thorvald, on the other hand, when he procs this freaking Juggernaut, he goes ham versus all the bosses, versus all the enemies across all game modes. And his Void Affinity. And he does self-buff too. Thor self-buffs as well with increased crit damage and increased attack, if I remember it correctly. But I think overall he has more power versus bosses in today's meta. Because enemy max HP champions don't do as much damage. Now, this once again, it might be more from a whale's point of view, where Thorvald can just go with crazy gear and just do bang bang, tap the bosses down, Shoguns, Sand Devil, and other bosses like that, right? But if we're looking from a different point of view, probably Thor would be the main pick. Like, he deals crazy damage. The passive, the utility that he brings with a stun, the decreased speed, the ignore block damage and killable, and everything else that comes from his kit is just very, very powerful. So I'm gonna have to go with both of them because I think they're both really, really powerful. Sacred Order, yeah, I know you're all looking at Siegfried. And I agree, he's absolutely insane. But looking at the rest of the legendaries that we have in here as damage dealers, really none of them are huge in PvE content. None of them. Like, they're not, oh my god, they're so freaking busted powerful. From the High Elves faction, I do think we actually have a very good champion that is very useful in a lot of content. Now, some of you guys will be like, well, Skratch, you completely ignored freaking Grazor. You haven't put him on the list, but you're going to go and put Otorian on the list. I actually will, yeah, because I think he's better just for the simple fact that he brings 2 enemy max HP hits instead of 1. He brings block buffs, the decreased attack, an AoE on the A1 too. You can definitely make a case of like, well, Skratch, Grazor deserves it too. But I think that just for the simple fact that we have this double enemy max HP hit, which will allow your champion to do more damage across all game modes, I think just for that simple fact, he deserves it. 9-piece Slayer, once again, is the way to go on this champion. 2 AoE attacks, and he can bring in huge, huge damage. Hydra. Even in the Chimera, I've seen a lot of you guys are saying that you're using him. Personally, I did not manage to get like a very good result with him in there, but that was mainly because I always had the rotation with Force Affinity whenever I tried him in there, you know? So that definitely complicated a bit my life in terms of trying him out. Titus needs a freaking huge buff because he's so expired. Bannerlords. I mean, it's just so straightforward in here, guys. Like, there's not even funny. I mean, he just got released in the game as the previous fusion 3-4 weeks ago, right? Titus Crazy, the best, the second best damage dealer for the Hydra clan boss after Tranda. One of the best damage dealers for the Chimera. For dungeons and stuff, he doesn't really bring you that utility because you need crazy setup, and it's more like something that you're doing for fun rather than actually bringing him in for utility. But he can offer you some support if we're not talking only about damage with everything that he brings in the kit, you know? So when you're building him, keep in mind that if he's under shield, he does not require the crit rate. When I've built mine, I actually forgot about that part, and then I was like, wait, I don't need that crit rate on him, I need to drop it. But he is very, very powerful. Running this in Hydra or Chimera is so much RNG that will definitely make you get pissed pretty damn quick. At least that's what he does to me. But very, very powerful. I have mine built. I'm actually going to share the build with you guys. He's the final champion that we're talking about anyway, so I can take a quick minute to show you. Plus, he's one of the newest additions. Merciless. So you want to have the 6-piece Merciless because his multipliers are slightly different. He doesn't deal damage only based on the shield value. He deals damage based on his multipliers, and then that gets increased by the shield value. Unlike Corpulent Cadaver, which was one of the goats in a Hydra clan boss and the regular clan boss in the past. But you want to have the resistance on him, high crit damage, defense, and I do not want to have him very fast, at least for my teams, the way that I'm running him. But that was everything for this video, guys. These are the best PvE nukers in Raid Shadow Legends at the moment. Probably we've done around top 15, I would say, because we definitely talked about top 15. We definitely talked about at least 15 champions in total. If you guys enjoyed the content, do me a favor, smash a like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know how many of these nukers are on your account. How many of you guys are trying to get one of these particular champions? And let me know in the comments below why. Much love, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.